Hello, White Sox fans, and welcome to the FutureSox podcast, part of the Just Baseball Media Network. My name is Ian Eskridge, and joining me, as always, is my co-host, Mr. James Fox. Tonight, we will be getting into the 2026 MLB Amateur Draft with our guest for the evening, Mr. Tyler Jennings, the Director of Amateur Scouting at Just Baseball and part of the On the Clock podcast. How are you, Tyler? Great to see you.
Doing good. Thank you guys for having me back on. It's always a blast getting to talk ball with you guys, and excited to kind of dive into what this means for the White Sox moving forward with having the first overall pick.
Yeah, so I mean, you mentioned that. How big of a deal is this for the White Sox to get the number one overall pick?
I think it's massive when you look at kind of everything that's kind of fallen into place. First off, this is the first time you guys have had the first overall pick since I think it was '77 with Harold Baines. And the past couple years, this is third straight year you guys are going to be picking in the top 10. Um, However, this is arguably the best class or the best crop of players we've had available in the draft since 2023. And you look at it. Obviously, last year you got Hagen, or the year before was Hagen Smith. This past year was Billy Carlson, and then you also get a guy like Jaden Fauske in the second round. But this year is there's a lot of top heavy talent in this draft class. I would say Roch Cholowsky is, for my money, having seen him at USA, having seen him a couple of times back in high school, he is one of the best, if not the best, amateur player I have seen in person. And I don't miss words when I say that. He was very, very, very good when he was at Collegiate National Training Camp here in USA. He did have kind of a rough go in Japan, but I would kind of wager that on fatigue more than anything. But he's arguably going to be the last guy, or sorry, he's going to be the first guy since at least Adley, if not Torque, who's been like a consensus 1-1 throughout the entire class. And he's arguably the best shortstop prospect we've had since at least Dansby. So looking at that, um, if you're the White Sox, I think you're thrilled with the result that you had this past Tuesday. And even going past that, there's plenty of depth in this class as well. So it's not just the first round's really good, then it kind of drops off after. This is a pretty well-rounded class considering what we've had the past couple years.
Hmm.
So, I mean, we're gonna get into the top two guys and then a couple more, obviously. But so, like, obviously, 3 years ago, right? Like, everybody's talking about Dylan Cruz, and then Paul Skeens doesn't come out of nowhere, but that happens. Like a pitcher goes one. Do you think both of the guys at the top of this class that we'll get into, Cholowsky and Emerson, do you think both of them would have been like seen as the top overall pick the last 2 years?
Rock for sure. I think there's a case where Roch Cholowsky is the best college bat in both 24 and 25. That's obviously looking at example Nick Kurtz at this time a couple years ago. We're talking about a guy that bit passive. He's had injuries to deal with, so there's some stuff to kind of question. And he had a slow start to start the year, and then now he's turned into arguably the best rookie bat in the AL. Not going to say development's not linear; it never is. But if you had put Rock into either of those classes, I think that he's easily the best player in both classes. Emerson's not far behind. I think Emerson has a case to be the number one prep player in both classes as well. Um, I don't know if he would have ever cleared like what Ethan Holiday got last year. I think he got 9 million. But Emerson definitely, he doesn't have the same kind of power Holiday does, but it's a way better hit tool and is arguably a better athlete at a premium position. So
Yeah.
both those guys I think had a chance to really, if they were in a different draft class, they would be number one guys.
All right, so then for everybody that like hasn't dug in yet, and look, I think a lot of people who around here, Tyler, who normally wouldn't really care that much about this, when you get a number one pick, now a lot of people know the name Roch Cholowsky. Can you just like give us just like a scouting report on him, please?
Yeah, absolutely. The first thing you're going to know about Roch Cholowsky is the defense. If you watch any highlights on Twitter or even watch some of the videos that we've been able to put out on the clock YouTube, it's silky smooth at shortstop, and I'm talking like might be a 60 defender, Gold Glove caliber defense at a premium position. And the thing that really stood out to me when seeing him at USA is very quick hands. The transfer is very quick. It's very silky smooth to both sides of the ball, or both sides of the bag rather. He made really tough plays look rather easy as well. We were talking about having to glide over to the other side of second base to make a play and throw the runner out with ease. It's really just a well polished, operation at shortstop, and it's been that way for years. High school, he was really well known for the fact that his glove was fantastic. It's just the offensive output needed to take the step forward, and it finally did this past year. We're talking about a guy that he doesn't. There's not a ton of swing and miss. It's a well polished approach. He does a pretty good job of lifting the ball to his pull side. When we're talking about the most successful batted ball event, that is the pulled fly ball. And he had, it was something like 20 home runs last year. All of them were pull side bombs. He does a very, very good job of staying within the zone, doesn't really chase out of it. If there's one thing that I kind of want to see fixed, is kind of toning down the mechanics a little bit at the plate. He can get out of sorts a little bit. The hands kind of get away from the body. It was definitely noticeable during his stint at USA. However, again, I think that's just due to fatigue more than anything. He did go to Omaha this past year, and I would imagine UCLA goes back this year. But yeah, I think there's a chance for a 60 hit, 60 power shortstop with Gold Glove potential moving forward, and that's looking like a 60 future value player moving forward.
So, quick question: when you say his hands got away from his body, was he? Because I didn't see anything with USA at all. Was he rolling over the ball, or was his bat speed down?
It wasn't necessarily anything with rolling over the ball or anything like that. It's just more of, he was kind of out of sync with his body. So what I kind of mean was, like, during the college season, there's definitely some movement. He's got a moderate leg kick, and the hands kind of do move away, but he was definitely outstretched a little bit more, and that does cause some timing issues with your swing. So if that doesn't resolve itself, going into February, then we're obviously looking at a player that could see his stock drop a little bit depending on how the performance goes. Uh, but we'll see what happens. He still performed very well when he was here in Cary. Hit a home run against Alex Hernandez, who's arguably one of the better ACC bats in this class. He also did just a fantastic job at shortstop. So there's a lot to really buy into with Roch, and I think he's a guy that, looking at what he could be in 2 to 3 years, could be a very quick riser through the minor league ranks.
Hmm. So before we got a ton of questions in the chat that I do want to get to before we move along too far, but the number two guy that the White Sox have, that they have the choice of here, that seems to be like one of the consensus 1-2 guys, is Grady Emerson. Do you have a scouting report on him for everybody?
Yeah, so Grady Emerson, a similar hit tool, very similar hit tool. I think he's a plus hit tool guy moving forward. It's a very spread out base that he has on the swing, so he's not tapping into a ton of power yet. However, he's still got very good rotation, very good bat speed. So you're projecting on the body and the mechanics to really turn into a potential 55 power, maybe even higher than that, depending on how development goes for him and what his fit is. Now, defensively, he's not rock good. I'm not going to say he's terrible by any means. I'd say he's a grade down from what Roch is. I think it's a 55 glove at shortstop. He's got some limited range to his left. He might move to third base depending on how the body kind of ages moving forward. However, it's still a premium glove over there as well. So it's a guy who's going to stick on the left side of the infield. If he grows into more power, it's easily 55, maybe higher. In the approach and the plate discipline is arguably one of the best I've seen from a prep guy in the past few years. So he's a guy that I think is just a step down from what Roch is, but it's still, you're not going to argue, or you're not going to complain about getting a guy like that, depending on how the money plays out on draft day.
Yeah, so I have like a specific question on the two guys we've talked about, but before we do that, some have asked about Justin LeBron. Like, I know he got off to a big time start like last year, and then Rock kind of overtook him. Do you think he's the clear like number two college bat in the class, like right now before the season starts?
Personally, for me, I would go AJ Grassi as a second college bat, and that's mainly because when you look at what AJ's been able to do the past few years, obviously is pretty passive. The walk rate's obviously going to be high, but he's gotten trouble with strikeouts because he's letting guys get into their best pitches pretty early. However, beautiful swing from the left side. It's arguably one of the best, some of the best bat the ball skills in the college class overall. It's been like it was like a 15% whiff rate last year on all offerings. That's back to back years with that too. Doesn't chase. He knows how to put the ball in the air. I would wager that there's probably like a 60 hit, 60 power there, but he's not. The glove's not going to carry a ton of value in that profile because of the fact that it's not a ton of speed, not a ton of arm strength. Might be a left fielder, but I think the bat's just too good to ignore at that point. And with LeBron, it's like arguably you mentioned it, had a great start last year, started to show more power, especially to the opposite field. My biggest issue with LeBron is recognizing and detecting spin, and being able to hit that moving forward. He's got a bat path that's kind of there to roll over better secondaries. The one thing I'll say that he does a very good job of is getting on time for high fastballs and destroying them. He slugged something like 750 against high fastballs this past year, including like 6 home runs, which is something that you don't really see that often at the amateur scene. So having that in your back pocket's good. I do want to see the success against breaking balls get better with him, and I think he's just as good of a defender as Rock at shortstop. But he's definitely given the issues recognizing spin is kind of just tough to really put him at number 2 right now for me.
So going 1A, 1B here between Cholowsky and Emerson, do you think Emerson's ceiling is high enough to justify passing on Cholowsky's floor and how quickly he could be to the majors?
I'm not going to say no. And the reason why I say that is the aforementioned bat speed and projection that Emerson possesses. Plus, it's a lefty bat. Lefties are going to get a quote unquote special treatment just because of the rarity of that handedness. But I think when you look at Rock's track record and the fact that he's been in the scene so long, has been so successful in the scene so long, going back to high school when he was at Hamilton High in Arizona, not to mention there's bloodlines too. His father is a scout in the Reds organization, I do believe. Um, I just think if the draft were tomorrow, I would still go Rock. But considering the fact that it's July 11th and not December 14th, I'm not gonna shut the door on the idea of a team going after Emerson at 1-1, considering what he has at his disposal.
Yeah, and look, they're gonna say that they're gonna take like their highest ceiling guy, and they should, right? I just I understand like if you're them, and some of this like young core that's in the big leagues, like adding Roch Cholowsky to that because he could be in the big leagues by midseason 27 potentially. So like I get the arguments both ways. I look, Tyler, I've always been the take the high upside high school guy all every year. Every time we do this, that's what I want to do. And this time I'm like, oh, I don't think you can pass on this guy. But yeah,
Yeah.
like we can keep going. So I did a mock. And I will say it's the first time like I've really like tried to do one because I like waiting obviously until we see who the picks are. I really like the high school pitching class. What are the strengths of the draft class in your opinion?
You just mentioned one of them, high school pitching. It's really incredible looking at the changes that have happened on that side this summer. Coming in, I wasn't as high on some of the arms, but going out to see some of the 18U trials and then even area codes, there's a lot of really really good high school pitching in this class, especially lefties. The big three of Gio Rojas, Logan Schmidt, and then Carson Bulleman from South Carolina. Those three are the clear 1, 2, 3 in that demographic. And then the best righty, in my opinion, is Justin Hirschkorn from California, who struck out 9 in 3 innings at 8 a.m. at area codes. It's a lot of really talented guys. There's a lot of high upside. When we're talking about ranking like Bowman, Rojas, and then Schmidt, for me, I think Bowman is, again, the track record's there. It's 2+ breaking balls. Fastball's been up to 94. He commands it well. It's deceptive. With Rojas, you got more upside, but I would wager there's a bit more risk there just because of the fact that there's some command woes. But he's definitely a guy that you look at it might be a top 15 pick. I think Bowman is as well. Logan Schmidt, he's a guy that reclassed, big, bulky guy, really, really deceptive. Nobody sees the fastball out of the hands, and he's already been up to 97. But he does have some issues with spinning the ball, which it's not the biggest work to have. It's pretty easy to teach guys how to spin a breaking ball now, which is good, especially when you get to major league development. But he's definitely the weakest of those three, but it's really, really good on that side of the ball. And then another one that would really kind of stands out to me right now is the college bats. It's definitely at the top. Uh, Roch Cholowsky, Justin LeBron, AJ Gracia, Drew Burris. Trying to think of another guy that's really stood out. Ace Reese from Mississippi State. There's another guy too that I remember doing a very good job at USA that stood out to me, and I believe it was Tyler Bell. Yeah, it was Tyler Bell. Chris Akopian too. He's a guy that he struck. He only whiffed on like 6% of fastballs last year across a huge sample size in the Big Ten. Going to the SEC now, he's going to be really good. Vaughn Lackey, Caden Sorrell, Chase Brunson. There's just a lot of guys at the top on the college side that know how to hit, and they do a very, very good job. So those are the two strong points of this draft class.
So this is your area of expertise, James. So I'm going to let you ask this question.
These next couple ones here. So, so I just, in the rundown, I just put bonus pool questions, right? But so this increases a little bit every year. Do you have any expectation as far as just like the pick value increase? I mean, and then just in regards to Roch, like if he does what we think he's going to do and he's the number one pick, right? The most money anybody's gotten in this system's like 9.3, correct?
It's like 9.25. Yeah, I think it
so,
was.
I mean, even reasonably, like if they had to pay him $10 million, like they'd pocket 1.5 probably if you could walk people through that maybe.
Yeah, I would wager. So going off of what you just said, like last year, the signing bonus for 1-1 was just a little over 11 million. And obviously last year there was nobody in that class that was worth that kind of money. It's been like that for years. The last guy at 1-1 to get slot value was Torkelson in 2020. And every year since then has been under slot guys. And I would expect this year to be different. I would wager the pick value is going to be closer to 11.3, if not 11.4. 11.5 is not. I'm not going to throw it out the window. I could definitely see that. I just wonder if that's too much percentage wise, because it usually goes up like 2 to 4% each year. Um, my thing with what the White Sox can do at one is you'd mentioned it. If it goes to 11.5, you save 1.5 mil right off the bat. You can definitely go out and pay somebody in the second round, like you've done with Jaden Fauske last year, Landon Hodge as well, some way later on in the draft that could get an overslot value, and save some money there. So I would wager that Roch Cholowsky has the best chance right now to be the first player to get 8 figures in the draft in this system. And that would shatter the record by 750,000 basically. So yeah, that's where I'm at right now. This draft class is definitely there's the best case of somebody getting $10 million right now. Whether or not that happens, no idea personally. We'll see how everything kind of shakes out once we get to July. But as of right now, I would bet some good money that there's going to be a $10 million figure in this draft class right now.
So I want to get to some of these comments here. I want to get to super chat here from Emiliano. Says Roch is number one, no doubt, but names to watch in round two. We've seen Joseph Contreras. They're talking about him today online on Twitter. We've seen Landon Tomey. We've seen a bunch of guys that they're talking about that. The favorite strategy here: overslot at 42, spread it out, draft an extra player. What are you thinking for what the best way for the White Sox to handle this thing with the way this draft is going to unfold here?
Yeah, I think they're going to keep doing what they've done the past couple of years, where they draft, like again, Hagen Smith, Billy Carlson, top 10. And then you get a guy like Jaden Fauske in the 40s, where you pay him a little extra to keep him, but it's big upside. And I think you have to take that gamble and take that bet to really put trust in your development team and also create the best future for your organization. In terms of who I think could be there, it's really tough. Joseph Contreras, I do like as a prospect. He's very wiry. Obviously, son of Jose, who was, I believe, a White Sox or a White Sox during the run in 2005. I think Joseph will also be on the WBC team for Brazil, which is fascinating because he's not he's not 18 yet. He's going to be one of the youngest guys on that in the entire tournament, which is going to be fascinating to watch. But with him, he's interesting because the fastball command's not really been there yet, but he's already touched 97. And you can definitely project more on it. It's a lot of arm speed. And I know people have talked about the Trey Savage arm slot recently, especially after the World Series. Contreras has a similar arm slot. It's not as vertical as what Savage has, but once you get up there, he starts to really toy that vertical plane. And the biggest thing I noticed was it's like a death or quote unquote death ball slider in the mid 80s where it's basically just all vertical and doesn't really break horizontally. And then it also has two changeups where he's got the traditional one and he's also got his dad's forkball has gotten like a 60% whiff rate this past summer. So I'm really interested to see what kind of happens this spring with Contreras because he's a guy that I could totally see throwing 100 within due time and will have a lot of upside in the secondary department. Just the fastball itself, as much as it can touch triple digits, the angle to the plate from that high arm slot is going to kind of limit the upside of it. It's going to be more of a ground ball. You'll get some whiffs with the velo itself, but you might be more of a ground ball guy moving forward for me.
Yeah, and I think like we have 7 months, right? Like I wouldn't be surprised if 42 is a prep pitching spot. The White Sox love it. They just a lot of times they just can't afford it because so even like they've done Bonnemer, they've done Foskey, they've taken money from the back, right? And they've gone 700K over slot. I feel like they could do more than that this time. Like you know what I mean, Tyler? Like this is like if you save enough at the top, your 5% overage is going to be like 800,000. Like a lot of people have asked about Landon Tomey, and we can get into him in a minute. And what
Mhm.
I've been saying is I think they can get somebody better at 42 than that. Like I think, like one of those big time high school guys that you're talking about like wants $4 million. There's no reason the Sox can't do that at 42. And we'll get there and we'll see like once bonus polls come out. I'd be maybe more big game hunting there.
Yeah, I agree. And I know somebody's mentioned like some of the other high school arms like Coleman Borthwick, Logan Schmidt. I think somebody even mentioned Jackson Flora as well. I don't know if you can buy down Schmidt and Flora. I think both of them, especially if you think Schmidt's, Cam Caminiti, I think he's a first rounder. Jackson Flores is going to be a first rounder with the fact that he's so athletic and has a really powerful 1-2 punch. But Coleman Borthwick makes sense at 42. He's a guy that just came off a really stellar performance for USA to win gold medal in Japan. It's been up to 97. It's kind of deceptive. He's got like a hook, like kind of like a hook arm action behind his back. Has some crossfire. He'll get on guys very quickly. Has a really really good sweeper. Um, I want to see the arsenal expand a little bit, but he's 6'6", 255. If it doesn't work out pitching wise, he's a power hitting first baseman that is a lot more agile than people think. So he's got two-way abilities that a lot of people are going to be excited about in this draft class. I think somebody at PBR even mentioned that he could be like not a Paul Skeens-esque guy, but I think if you squint there, maybe you see a little bit of it. I don't agree with it personally, but I see the case that people are making on that. Like it's a big guy with that kind of stuff and good command. I'd say you take a chance on that personally especially in the second round.
Well, and he was a two-way guy, right? Like he hit Andy's 6'6", 255, which is probably like why people are like, oh, he's Paul Skeens. Like,
Yeah, I think that was definitely it's like a lazy comp or quote unquote lazy if we want to call it that. But again, I think if you squint enough and you look at what the future could be, I think there's some outcome where that happens. I think it's a very upper echelon outcome, but like if you think that Coleman Borthwick can definitely turn into a guy that is a viable starter moving forward and has that dynamic 1-2 punch and throw strikes, hey, you take that in the second round, you run with it.
yeah, Ian, I'm gonna let you ask about the local guys in a second, but since we're on the pitching, a guy that seems a little bit further down, Tyler, but look, they love their area code players that were on their team. Savion Sims played for them. What are your thoughts on him?
Savion Sims is interesting because obviously he's thrown 100. Did that this past summer at PG National. Um, but having talked to a couple of people and kind of after seeing that area code outing, thinking about a comp to Miguel Sime where it's very fastball heavy, throws very hard, command can be so. I think Sims has better command than what Sime ever had at this point in the summer. But with Sims, there really isn't a breaking ball to kind of bounce back on. C-May had a really good changeup this past year, and it got better in the spring. But with Sims, it's a kind of like a softer curveball from his arm slot. Again, he's like Joseph Contreras, where he's got the arm slot up here, and he does a good job with the downhill plane. But I feel like if you don't have velocity at the next level and that velocity diminishes, I don't think the fastball plays to what it has been recently. Um, so it's tough for me to go out there and say, "Hey, Savion Sims has an 80 fastball." He's got a ton of extension. I'll give him credit there. He does a very good job of putting fastball where it needs to be. But if he loses that command ever so slightly and loses velocity, I kind of question how good of upside he has with that fastball moving forward. Um, but you look at it, he's playing catch at 100. Um, he's got 7'4". It's like 7'4" of extension on average, and you got so much projection there that you look at a guy that could be sitting 100 full time moving forward, but there's so much relief risk there. It's tough for me to put him higher than I think I had him like 45 on our prep board for top 50. So I'd like to see some more polish there, but Savion Sims, just the arm talent itself is incredible for a guy to be that young and that life really to be throwing that hard is really just astonishing.
So another guy that we got, a local guy, is another two-way player, Ethan Bass out of Glenbrook North. You have any thoughts on what he provides?
Yeah, I think Bass is a pretty solid glove. He's got the bounce, he's got the twitch to really do a good job at shortstop. Arm strength could probably push him to second base, but realistically speaking, guys are really high on the glove at shortstop. Um, the bat is interesting. He's obviously been a big performer, did a very good job this past summer. But looking under the hood, there's some swing and miss in the zone that's been kind of creeping up on him a little bit. He's a swing twinker, so like he'll try different leg kicks, different hand positions to kind of see how everything works out. But I think for me, he's going to be a power over hit guy moving forward, unless the end zone whiff rates kind of get better as he climbs the ladder. But he might have 50 to 55 power to both sides of the gap moving forward. Maybe get him to pull the ball a little bit more. I think he gets some more juice out of him as well. Maybe a 45 hit tool. Um, Again, I personally, for me, end zone success is something I kind of value pretty heavily in evaluations. And he has something like a 20% whiff rate this past summer, maybe even slightly worse than that, which isn't great on the summer circuit, but it's not the worst rate to have. I know somebody mentioned Jacob Lombard. Jacob Lombard's whiff rate this past year was not good, um, which is part of the reason why I'm a little bit lower. However, he's got so much athleticism, so much power that he stayed in the top 5 on our prep ranks. But um, back off that tangent, Bass, in my opinion, could be like a 45 hit, 55 power guy once he's fully developed with a good glove at shortstop. I'm interested to see if he goes to Wake Forest personally. If so, he could turn into like a Merrick Houston situation, but definitely way more power than what Merrick had at this stage.
Yeah, I think I saw somebody say about Jacob Lombard that like that he could be Manny Machado or he could not make it out of double A. So like I was like that's all right. Sounds awesome. So we kind of danced around Tomey a little bit. It's a big story here, Tyler, just because so like Jim Tomey is in the White Sox front office. Kind of. He like I think he works
Sort of.
I think he works for the Guardians and the White Sox. It's really weird. But he coaches at Nazareth Academy, which is where Foskey and Tomey went. It was a little bit of a story. Tomey's going to Florida State now. Apparently, I think what Pipeline has him in the 40s. Where do you have him? And then your thoughts on Landon Tomey and what he could potentially do this year.
I'm a little lower on Tommy personally. However, the bloodlines obviously are there. So I think for me, he's going to turn into a top 100 pick. I don't think he's top 50 personally. And the reason why I say that is he's kind of got the same issue with Bass where he had that end zone whiff rates weren't the greatest this past year. However, when you look at the operation at the plate, it's super smooth, super easy. He's kind of built like how his dad was when he was first drafted out of JUCO. Jim Thome was not this big hulking slugger out of I think it was Heartland Community College out there in Illinois. But he developed into this big hulking slugger. Could Landon do that? Maybe there's projection there. It's definitely a lot of polish. It's an easy swing. It has good bat speed. He turns his hip inward to generate bat speed, which is something that kind of does hamper his bat the ball a little bit, especially if he's trying to chase out of the zone. However, he hit a home run at area codes at a ballpark that is notoriously tough on left-handed hitters. He performed pretty well on the summer circuit overall. I think there's a definite pipeline to where he's a top 100 pick at the next level, or not the next level, but in July. Um, I don't know if he ever goes to Florida State, though. Personally, I think you're just really buying on the tools and the bloodlines to really get that going. But like, he's a good defender. He can be at short. He can be at second base. I don't think he's got the arm for shortstop. He really just plays second base this past summer. So it'll be interesting to see how the body, translates and where he moves at the next level. Maybe he goes to third base if he just really bulks up and has some more arm strength. But second baseman with good power and bloodlines, I think you take that in the top 100 picks.
I was going to ask about that because it did take a few years for Jim Thome to become Jim Thome, and obviously packed on weight as his career went on, but that prolific power and all that stuff showed up, because he was a shortstop, I believe, when he was at Heartland, if I remember correctly, and that's where he was drafted at. So it's, I kind of wonder how, things are so training intensive now for younger kids that I wonder where Jim Thome would have been at this spot in his life, if he had been around today. It's just a weird thing to think about.
That
Florida
is a
sledge.
scary thought for the fact that man will be destroying every single baseball that's coming in at 100 miles an hour.
So I didn't really put this on the rundown, but I feel like we have a little bit more time. College pitching class, a couple of the guys at the top, I knew, but then as I was kind of digging in, there were some guys that I found interesting. Can you just like talk about the overall class and then Hunter Dietz for me? Like, he hasn't really pitched much, right? But it sounds like fall ball or whatever. He's like pretty explosive right now. Is this like a Garrett Crochet situation or not really?
So I'll say the Dietz thing for the second part of this answer because he's interesting. He's very interesting, and I've had some debates with people about him. However, college pitching this year is kind of on the weaker side for me. There's not a ton of top heavy guys in this class. Like, obviously, you think about Liam Peterson, Cam Fluke, Jackson Flora, and then you have Gabe Gagwell out of Arkansas. Those are the big four in this class. And then outside of that, it takes a little bit of a dive. But you mentioned that there's some very intriguing guys in this college class that I've kind of looked at and thought, yeah, there's some stuff here, like Ryan Lynch from UNC. He's a draft eligible sophomore. Tegan Coons for Tennessee is another guy's a draft eligible sophomore. Joey Volchko, apparently he's undergone a pretty big mechanical change at Georgia this fall and has continued to still throw 99 with a hammer breaking ball at 86. I think they dropped his arm slot. He's got more extension, which is good because he was really upright at Stanford, which is something that I didn't necessarily like for a guy with that kind of power stuff. He wasn't striking guys out. So I wonder if, Wes Johnson has finally gotten him to a point where he's going to turn into a strikeout machine this fall, or this spring rather. And then outside of that, like Ethan Norwood from East Carolina, very interesting, smaller guy at 5'9", 200, but throws a fastball at 94 with a 2,700 RPMs, commands it well, and has a arguably a 60, maybe even a 70 slider from the left side. I think teams are going to be highly valued, or that's going to be highly valued among teams rather. And then outside of that, like Russell Sandefur from Florida, Jack Riddell from Notre Dame, there's some really interesting guys as you go down the board. So there's depth on that side. Not a ton of high end talent though. But going back to Dietz, he's thrown like 2 innings in college in the past 2 years. He's had a ton of injury mishaps. I think he had an elbow surgery this past year. But you had mentioned it. He had a very, very loud fall. And this is a guy that he's been well known. He went to Calvary Christian when Liam Peterson and Landon Muratis were there a couple years ago. And that team went to NHSI, pitched against Noble Meyer. I think Dietz did, but he was obviously like 88, 91, wasn't throwing hard. Now he is. He's been up to 96, 97. And teams are going to value Velo from the left side. And he's also thrown a pretty solid slider as well, from what I've seen and what I've heard. So I'm very interested to see how that evolves. I think for my sake, I really want to see this stuff with longevity throughout the season first before I kind of like push him up. Um, that's just me though. I want to see the performances before I go ahead and put the stamp of approval on it. But I think there's definitely a realm where Hunter Dietz is a top 50 pick at the end of the year. I think when you again look at the velo from the left side and the track record that he's been able to put together, if it does come to fruition, I think you take that, somewhere in the 35, 40, 50 range and you run with it. I think it's a gold molded clay for a guy at 6'6", like 210, and has that kind of projection.
Ian, I think this is like one of the most interesting things about like just like the college classes every year. Cause I feel like like Jim Callis does this and Tyler does it. And we look at these lists, right? And then the college season starts and there's like this pitcher that's like going to be a top 10 pick all of a sudden, right? Like Tyler, like last year at
Every
this
year.
time, if I had you on and asked you about Liam Doyle, like what would you have said? Like like he wasn't ranked this highly, right?
No, he definitely got a boost as the winter kind of came along. But if you had asked me this time last year, I would have said like second rounder, third rounder, maybe. And then he came out and just blew our minds. Really, like that fastball was a unicorn in every way, shape, or form.
Yeah, so somebody's gonna do that. I don't think like we're gonna be doing this a few months from now and think the White Sox are taking a pitcher at 1, but there's gonna be a name or two up in this mix, like up there though, that we're maybe not thinking about right now.
100%. And I think looking at it, some guys I didn't mention, like Jake McCoy, South Carolina, Southpaw. Ethan Kleinschmidt, Oregon State. I'm high on him. High pitchability guy, plus command, 3 really good pitches with good pitch shapes. He could be a guy that pops into the first round. I wouldn't be shocked. Um, I did see somebody ask about not Roki Sasaki, Jesus, Rentaro. He is eligible this year. I know he did just got taken in the first round of the NPB draft. Personally, for me, as much as I really did hype up Rentaro this past year, and he did well when I saw him, there was a lot of struggles that he really endured during his first season. And I do just wonder where the upside is right now. He's a landlocked first baseman with admittedly a ton of juice, just never really got into it last year because the bat to ball skills were a little fringy. I would wager he's like a 7th rounder at this point if I had to put money on it. And I think when you look at it compared to what he could do in Japan, if he goes back home, being a first round pick, he's got a really interesting decision to make over the next few months. So I wanted to touch on that because I did see the question asked.
So there have been a couple of questions here, and this is something that we haven't touched on yet. The depth of this class. Now, the White Sox, one thing that we have been talking about, and we've talked about it for multiple reasons, a comp pick for the White Sox. Is this the kind of year with the depth of this draft that they want to prioritize on trading either a Luis Robert or a Lenin Sosa, just to try and get that extra comp pick for that extra money and for obviously the player if the depth is there?
100%. I think when you look at it, we had talked about it before where the high end talent is very good and there's just as much depth as there has been the past couple of drafts. I think you definitely try and find a way to ask for a CBA pick, whether it's A or B, because you'll still get either a couple million or at least $1 million if you get round B to add to your bonus pool, which is massive in this day of age with draft strategies and everything. So I'd say you take the gamble and you definitely try and prioritize getting as much upside as you can in the draft. With consider, I think they're probably going to be close, if not breaking the bonus pool record. Once we get signing bonuses released by MLB.
Yeah, Baltimore's was huge last year because they had so many extra picks. But yeah, I think other than that. So here, before we cut you loose, one of the other things that's been prominent recently is like the reclasses, right? Like guys going to, so I saw Rocco Maniscalco. Is he like going to be barely 17 in July? So what are we talking here? Is this like a really good year? He's going to like be at the back half of the top 10. Is this Steele Hall and similar to these guys last year?
I will not rule it out. I think Rocco, for what it's worth, he had a pretty tough summer circuit for what it's worth. So I'm going to put that out there, and just as a disclaimer,
Well, yeah, because
uh,
he's like a middle schooler. That's why.
yeah,
Like, yeah,
because
yeah.
he was playing against arguably a level better than what he was before. I think if he had reclassed like a couple of weeks earlier, he would have been on the 18U USA team personally. Um, However, true switch hitter, has pretty good bat the ball skills, all things considered, and he has good rotation, good bat speed. When we were talking about guys like Carter Johnson, who went to Miami in 24, I do believe. He was a guy that had pretty similar bat speed and rotation prowess, and I think Marco has that kind of same stuff. And it's a 70 glove at shortstop. I was watching that at USA this year and just sitting to myself, that is one of the best gloves I've ever seen in amateur scouting. I've been doing this for like 5-6 years at this point. And seeing that kind of level-headed kid with really advanced glove, really good footwork, really good range, uh, quality arm strength across the diamond. I think there's definitely a high floor there, considering the glove is so good. There's a lot of projecting on the bat itself, especially after having the summer he did. But I think there's a realistic chance that, considering how data friendly he is right now, 17 and 2 months on draft day is what his projected age is going to be right now. He has a chance to be the youngest first rounder since at least Ken Griffey Jr., which is mind boggling. And I think he's not even the if Jason Nicaro was in this draft class as a high schooler and reclassed like he did a couple years ago, he and Maniscalco would be tied for the youngest age in this draft class at 17.2. Like, Nicaro is only going to be 20 years and 2 months this year on draft day, which is mind-boggling to think of as a college junior. So if anybody wanted a reference on that, that's how young he is in this draft class. It's really just looking at that reclass and going, you have a chance to make a ton of money now, that considering that you're such a data friendly bat. Whether or not you take the warts of this past summer and kind of evaluate it, I think he's going to have a pretty fantastic spring. Um, all things considered, and I think again there's a high floor there with just how good that glove is at shortstop.
So, do you want to finish it off here with the ETA, James?
Oh yeah, sure. So people were asking, so Roch Cholowsky, what do you I mean, he could be in Kannapolis, what we're talking here, by late July, end the year in Birmingham, and then mid-season 27 in the big leagues, right?
Yeah,
I'm
I
kind of kidding, but kind of not kidding. Yeah.
no, I think that's really realistic. Looking at it, I think again he has a chance to really fly through the majors, and there's a non-zero chance, especially with the way that teams have been uh, pushing guys up quicker. Like, the 2024 class already had 5 guys in the big leagues by the first year, which was really incredible. Especially Cam Smith. I wasn't expecting Cam Smith to be in the big leagues within 3 months. So I think there's a non-zero chance that Roch Cholowsky could even make the team out of spring training if it happens to come with that, and that would come with a PPI pick in the future. But um, for me, if there's anything that like realistically works out, I'd say mid-year 27.
There's no way they're beating the Angels. Whoever the Angels are picking, he's going to make it to the majors first. I mean, like, let's not kid ourselves there. There's just no way.
Oh yeah, no.
Are you good, James? All right. So, Tyler, you want to let everybody know where they can find you and your work, please?
Yeah, so I'm on X, Twitter, whatever we want to call it, at Tyler Jennings 24, right there underneath. Find On the Clock on Twitter as well, and as well on YouTube. It's at On the Clock 1 on Twitter, and it's at On the Clock 291 on YouTube. Going to be posting a lot of video over the next couple of months, and also on my other screen, I've got a bunch of my draft rankings to kind of work on and get done here. So we're going to have top 100 college and prep ranks coming out in the next month or so. And then as the season comes along, we'll kind of combine both of those, get mock drafts ready. And there's a lot of content we're going to be really doing. And there's a lot of travel on my plan already, a lot of travel on my plate. So I'm excited to really get down and dirty with this draft class and get out there and see some of these guys. But, you know, at the same time, feel free to watch some of our podcasts as well. It's exciting to be part of this Just Baseball crew and excited to have you guys on as well. I know you guys just recently joined and excited to have you guys on as well. So, find us there. Buy some merch too. We got On the Clock merch now as well if you'd like to buy that on the Just Baseball site too.
Sweet. Well, thanks so much for coming on, Tyler. We appreciate every time you come on. You've got like a Rolodex of information inside that brain as far as prospects go, and we really appreciate it. Thanks for coming on. We appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you guys again for having me on. It's been a blast and always down to come back and join you guys.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thanks, man.
All right. Well, we hope we that's a lot of information. Hopefully
it's so early
guys...
too. We don't even have like a season yet. Like we have a whole college season to play.
Yeah, it is December 14th, and we're already talking about and digging deep on prospects here, which is to me is crazy.
I'm so
that we're even having
this
conversation.
Well, it's because we're happy. That's why.
Yeah.
Tyler would not have been on if we had the 6th pick. So
no, not yet anyway. All right. So there's actually been some things happening. I mean, it's not anything groundbreaking, of course. The White Sox have made a couple of acquisitions in the last week. Oliver Dunn signed. Ryan Rollison also signed.
Waiver claim. Yes.
Yeah. Right. Anything? Any thoughts go into this at all? I mean,
you see Tim Elko back today too.
That I should have also mentioned that. I know Carrie's super stoked. She still gets to keep her White Sox Tim Elko jersey around, and it's relevant, so that's good. Yeah. So any thoughts about that at all?
I mean, so Ryan Rollison, former first rounder, another Ole Miss guy. I mean, look, he was a Rocky, so needless to say, it did not work. So the Braves picked him up, and they kind of thought that there were like these pitch shape changes that they were going to make, and they thought they could make him effective. And then, they signed some players and they DFA'd him, and the Sox picked him up. So my thought, there's like some interesting, it's like Adrian tweeted out some interesting stuff from like a Braves Twitter guy, like about just like some stuff that you could do with his arsenal. Look, the Sox just hired a pitch tinkerer, right, as their pitching coach, a grips guy. So who knows, right? Like maybe Rollison doesn't even make it to spring training because you can't keep him around long enough. But like, I definitely think it's interesting that he's a failed starter. Like maybe they could figure out something with him and he could become like a bullpen guy. So yeah, I mean, that one's fine. Like anybody you like at this point, like you should just claim and have on your 40 man because you have, guys that are expendable. Oliver Dunn, like it seems like a spring training, extra infielder that's probably like in Charlotte is my guess, right? So yeah, those seem pretty minor. Nothing else on the big league side, obviously, yet, other than the Anthony K deal getting announced. There was some talk about Dustin May, but like I'm pretty sure the White Sox were only interested in him in a relief role, and the Cardinals are going to let him start, so he's off the board. But yeah, no, that's the real news. Other than obviously Rule 5 too. I figured you were going to get into.
Yeah. So the White Sox lose Peyton Paulette in the Rule 5, but they pick up, and I didn't even put that on my notes here, but the Alexander Alberto and
Jennings Paez.
Both of these 40 man.
Both of these dudes are super interesting, and this is not the strategy that I felt like they were going to employ, right? I mean, these are two guys that haven't pitched like really in Double-A. They went for premium upside here. Like so Paez, look, I think Paez is going to be difficult to keep all year personally. They think that this is like a guy with starter traits, and who knows, like whether you can hide him all year. I do think we had a text conversation where Like he had a calf injury where he missed 3 months. I kind of think if this guy goes to AA and makes like 12 or 15 starts, like the Red Sox probably protect him. So that's probably the White Sox thought on this. Like, we think this is the best guy available, even if like what we're going to try to do is a little bit crazy. Screw it, let's add talent, I think is kind of their mindset. We just got to see whether like he can stick or not. It's going to be tough, I think.
Yeah, I think so too. After watching, because I mean, he didn't make that many starts last year because of the calf injury. I think he made like 5 or 6 starts or something like that before the injury, and then a couple afterwards. Reminds me a lot of the stylings of Mason Adams. Same very very low walk rate. Um, Probably maybe a tick higher on the fastball, but still with the nasty changeup and breaking balls that miss bats a lot. He's very interesting. I just don't know, with him only having pitched an advanced day, if they can manage to bump him up that quickly that he's going to stick. I don't know. It's just,
I know. And they got to do 90 days on the active roster. I saw Jamie just kind of ask the question.
yeah.
I mean, look, can they make up a calf injury or something? Like, I don't know. Like, will he like be used as an opener like before Sean Burke comes in, or like is he a mop up guy? I don't know, right? And then because that's the other thing that I think gets lost a little bit, and I don't expect this to happen, like because Mike Vassell was like really important for the White Sox last year, but you could send him down this year, like it. Not that
True.
not that you would want to,
I
right?
don't think they would.
But it's like he's one of your optionable guys. They could play those sorts of games. So here's my question to you: the other guy, like, I guess like how did the other guy not go sooner? And I don't know if that's like me drinking the Kool-Aid too much, but it's like that guy seems like Alberto seems like the perfect guy that like a bad team should take.
He is
right?
a Rule
Because
5 guy, right?
yeah, because he throws
He's like the perfect Rule 5
he throws
guy.
a high 90s cutter that touches 100, and he gets 7 feet of extension. Like, yeah, like he could pitch 5 times in spring training, and it could be god awful. Or we could think he's the closer based off of 5 outings. Like it could just be totally disgusting.
Yes, and we will reiterate that it is Alberto and not Albertus, because let it not distract from the fact that Albertus is not an
Who?
actual human being.
Yeah, he's
Yes.
that's not a real person.
Not a real person. I find him to be pretty interesting. I saw him pitch when I was in Bowling Green last year watching the Dash, and that dude can bring it. You get some amazing wild pitches that, skitter off at 100 miles an hour, and they go super high in the air off the backstop. Super good wild pitches. The walk rate's a little bit high than I'd like, but the dude brings gas and his pitches move a lot. It's boom or bust in my opinion. Like, he's either going to be really good. I don't think there's going to be any in between with him getting kept.
Yeah, and I wonder if they do anything with the arsenal, because like the cutter usage is insane. It's like 80% cutters. So
yeah. I mean, he's basically a 2-pitch pitcher. I know he throws a 4-seamer as well, which hits 100, but he doesn't throw it nearly as much as he throws the cutter.
Yeah,
so,
it's like cutter slider, I think. Is what he throws.
For the most part.
Yeah, so he's gonna air it out in the spring. He's also 6'8", like 200. Which is interesting.
He's not the 6'8" guy I thought we were gonna get, but turns out that
that guy went number 1.
He went number 1. So
well, at least we've basically I think the last 2 years identified the top guy in the Rule 5 draft. So pat us on the back, because I think in our conversations we were like, probably the Pettit guy makes the most sense. Well, he went 1. They didn't, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, went 1. Unfortunately, we had 1 too.
Baseball, I haven't seen anything about like a Fairbanks
one
deal being close, other than yes. I mean, there might have been like a Twitter account or something that mentioned it, but I hadn't seen anybody, like any reporters, like say it.
So I have a question about this whole Pete Fairbanks thing. How serious do you think that the
sorry. I thought you were going to ask me about his fingers. I don't know.
Well, I'm going to ask about the Raynaud syndrome.
Yeah, that.
Like,
yeah.
I just don't, with being a cold weather city, I just don't know that it makes sense with the spring and the fall being super. I just don't know if it makes sense to do that.
Right. So I think Fairbanks is better than like anybody who I thought they were going to get. Like I think Pete Fairbanks is good.
Yeah, he is.
But
Yeah,
on the other hand, he was readily available to 29 clubs for basically 1 year and 11 million in ARB, and the Rays non-tendered him instead. So like I don't know, like I've seen even in like our group chat, right? Like they saw the like Elijah and Dylan saw the Rogers deal, right? It was like 3 at 37 to the Jays, and they thought that meant that was like some indicator that Fairbanks is going to get a ton of money. I just like don't really know that it works that way. And maybe like this, what is it, Raynaud's syndrome? Is that what it's called?
Raynaud.
Yeah,
I'm not
yeah.
sure.
So he like has circulation issues where like he can't pitch in the cold. So yeah, like it's, I don't know, like maybe they feel like they'll pay him and just use him in the summer. Like I have no idea, but look, I would be excited by a Fairbanks deal because, and I've seen some mention like, oh, why would you spend all your money on like a bullpen guy? I mean, look, the Sox are in this mode where like you're going to be looking at trading again in July. And I know nobody really wants to talk about that, but even if you're better, like if Fairbanks is really good and you can turn him into 3 young players, like that's kind of the whole point of this stuff. Like even though, yes, you want him closing out games and winning more, there's no reason to root for losses at this point. But I mean, if they're selling in July, like it's you know, it's not going to be a surprise.
Oh man, so aggravating. I am hoping that we're finally on the other side of having to root for losses.
But it's going to be a bunch of like important guys playing, and like you can't pick till 10th anyway, so who cares? Like win as many games as possible.
Yeah, I mean you would hope. I don't even remember Jackson Kelly from the Rangers.
Yeah, it's a side armor.
Very funky delivery.
It's a total banister guy. He's like a sidewinder.
He really is. He's like that guy that you look at and you say, I totally understand why you wanted him, because all the guy he likes pitch like super weird.
You think he just goes into the Kenny Williams old dark room at the, you know what I mean? Like they used to talk about Kenny would go down in the room for like 48 hours and like he'd come back out and he'd be like, we're getting this second baseman from Japan. And like, that, like, is that this Bannister now? Or they're like, here, we got 15 weird guys for you to watch. Like, tell us which one's the weirdest that you want.
Yeah. It's like, Billy Bean and Pete sitting in a room, right, just like, looking at all these fat guys pitching.
Yeah.
Hey, exactly. Look at this guy.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, that's awesome.
So again, and I really don't want to talk about this again, but it makes sense to, because
it's everywhere.
It's that time of year again, and we're hearing all sorts of rumors.
And now our guy Francis is in on it.
All these teams are looking at Luis Robert. Your thoughts on this whole thing?
So here's the thing. Like, it was so funny. Like, the other day, John Heyman, right? Notorious, like, for reporting on Scott Boras clients. Luis Robert, Scott Boras client. He said that the Mets were interested in Luis Robert. And then it was kind of weird the way he reported it. He said, like, the speculation is that they don't want to trade prospects if he makes $20 million, and Jerry Reinsdorf isn't going to pay down the contract to help Steve Cohen, is essentially what it was. And then I quote tweeted it and put it out into the ether, and some other people did too. And look, I don't think I have this kind of power, but it would be great. It would be great if I did. But the next day, Ken Rosenthal has like a whole article on it and basically refutes it and says like that a White Sox employee told him that in fact they would pay down the contract in order to trade him. Which, look, I have no reason to doubt Ken Rosenthal. That would be great. If they're willing to eat money, I don't know how much, like they can definitely trade him if they're willing to eat money. And this is what I've kind of said the whole time. Like even with the struggles of this guy, like these teams, Phillies, Padres, Mets, it sounds like Ken Rosenthal threw the Pirates in there, which I find interesting because get a comp pick, please. These teams need center fielders and there's nobody available.
Yeah,
like there's nobody to go get.
I've seen O'Neal Cruz play center field, and I wouldn't want to see that anymore either. If I could avoid it, if I was a Pirates fan anyway.
No, I mean, and you can move him somewhere else too, or like to a corner, right? Like to me, the 35th pick and like one of their recent like high school pitchers that they drafted, done in a heartbeat. They got fine.
Yeah.
Save the money and spend it in free agency, and that's fine.
Yeah, I mean, I hope that your tweet was
Wouldn't that be great if they're like, God darn it, this guy, like we got to refute it. I don't think I have
if it was the crowbar that pried open the wallet there. I keep tweeting, James.
yeah, right. Well, I'm not, I found it interesting. So I don't know. Like, we'll see how quickly this happens, if at all. Like, I don't know if they're like hamstrung. They haven't signed anyone, but I don't know that they can't. I don't really know. Like, it's kind of weird.
Yeah, we're gonna find out within the next couple of months. I would think here.
Somebody asked about the Japanese players. I don't think the Sox are involved in anybody from Asia. I do think some of those guys are holding up the free agent market though. Like the Imai, the pitcher, like especially like if you're the Cubs, right? Like why would you sign anybody until you know like whether or not you're getting this guy? Because I think he's a much better idea than like the other guys that are out there.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it'd be interesting. I mean, if the money makes sense and they can spend that kind of money, it makes sense for the White Sox. I'm all for it. Obviously, I just want good players, James. That's what I want.
No, that would be good. It's kind of a weird team. I mean, I feel like additions are coming, but I also feel like if additions come, it's for the White Sox specifically. Like you're gonna like some guys are gonna be gone because you're just like even if it's like a like people aren't gonna like this, right? What I'm about to say, but like if it's Ryan O'Hearn and then you pay like Michael Conforto to like bounce back or something, like you're gonna lose guys off your current team. Like if you do something like that, you know what I mean? Like what does that do to Lenny and Sosa? Yeah, like it's you don't have enough roster spots.
Yeah, my whole thing, like as far as like I am one of the big Lenny Sosa guys on Twitter just because of my conversations with Beefloaf. But my whole thing about Sosa was I just wanted him to get a shot to play in the major leagues, and that I thought that he could hit in the major leagues. Now that he's here and he's hit pretty well, go ahead and trade him. I have no problems with that. I don't have any illusions that the White Sox should prioritize him in any shape or form. I just want to get better.
Yeah, and like I don't want to trade him for nothing. Like I think there's like if a move makes sense, right? Like sure. Like that's fine. I mean, cuz at this point like it doesn't seem like they want to play him at first. And he's definitely not playing second over the guys they have at second. So it's just a little bit unfortunate for him, but look, he's good enough to play for somebody in the big leagues.
I would think so. So there's some questions here from baseball, and I've seen a couple other ones here. Baltimore finally, like they go out and they spend money on Pete Alonso.
On 2 right-handed bats they went and got. I didn't realize that they were like deficient like in that area.
Does Pete Alonso strike people out?
No.
Is he a starting pitcher?
No, and here's the like I do think that's coming. Like we've beat on Baltimore a lot, rightfully so, right? So this is so they're a finalist for Michael King apparently, and they're in trade talks for Mackenzie Gore and Edward Cabrera. The thing that I want to know is now like do you trade Kobe Mayo, or even who's their other first base DH?
Basayo?
Well, no, there's another guy. There's another one that's Ryan, whatever. That's been there for a while. Because like now you have a first base.
Mountcastle?
Yeah, Mountcastle. Like, do you trade those guys for pitching? Because you would think now that with the polar bear there, he's playing every day. I would think.
You would think so.
Yeah.
How amazing would it be if the Orioles have a deep run in the playoffs and the Orioles do it without trading any of those prospects that they were hugging on?
I know. Well, but some of them are like kind of trending towards like not very good too right now.
as happens
It
all over the place.
always happens, right? They're not all
Yeah.
good. They're like not all gonna be good.
Yeah,
It's
it's like
funny how that works.
1% of all minor leaguers, play baseball in general, play in the major leagues, and then, like 1% of them are actually good. So I don't know why anybody would actually be surprised, by these results that they only have a couple of guys that are going to hit. And I mean, I think eventually, like Holiday will finally realize the potential and go out and, be pretty stinking good. But
Yeah. So they did have. So we did have a couple people asked about Teal. I mean, dude, the way that that's reported is crazy. Like, basically everybody on our side, Scott Merkin, Bruce Levine, whatever, say like there's no chance the White Sox are trading Kyle Teal. But it like keeps getting reported from the Boston side. Do you think that this is because their media is like Red Sox fans, basically? Like, I don't really, or they're like used to just like getting whatever they want. Like, I don't really get it because there's so many of like, oh, they're interested in Kyle Teal. Okay,
yeah, we just traded him to you last year, but now we want him
yeah,
back.
like that's great. Like that's not gonna like as soon as I saw that, I'm like, that's like not gonna happen. There's like no like because even like the Edgar Caro thing, right? Like you and I think even differ a little bit on that, like whether they should trade Caro, keep Caro, whatever. Like even if you decide Kyle Teal's your guy, we're probably gonna have to trade Edgar Caro at some point for something good, right? That time, like he hasn't even shown that he's like good yet. Like so, I get keeping both of them and waiting. You know what I mean? Like they can improve
Could
Edgar
you
Caro's
imagine trading the
pitch
wrong one?
framing. Yeah, like his pitch framing in the big leagues like improves, and you still think Teal's better, but like half the league thinks Caro's a starter. Like you can get more for him later. So I don't necessarily disagree that maybe you have to or maybe it would be advantageous for you to trade one. I just don't know that it makes sense to do one like right now before we've even seen them.
Yeah, I mean, it's been my personal opinion. I watched both of them in the minor leagues for a couple of years before they both got called up. I personally have always been a Caro guy over a Teal guy, and it's not that I think Teal's bad. I just personally am a little bit higher on the power potential of Caro in the long run, I think, but he kind of rubs me as like the kind of guy who is takes a little bit longer for that power potential to finally show up. And I think that, the recency bias and the energy of seeing Teal, getting all super fired up on the field, I feel like that gives everybody um, a little bit more fire in their belly that they want to keep Teal and get rid of Caro. So imagine trading the wrong one though.
Yeah. So there's an AJ Preller question here, and I know we're going over a little bit, but we had a guest,
Yeah.
so we're good. I'm good. So AJ Preller is so fascinating. Like, so there's rumors that like there's like a huge Mets trade that might go down, and like all these guys are mentioned from their side, right? Like Nick Pivetta, all their bullpen guys, you know, and then like I think like Ramon Laureano was mentioned, and Mason Miller. The issue that San Diego has right now is like they're trying to sell that team. AJ Preller is not allowed to spend like he was spending before, and he has two starting pitchers right now. So he literally does this stuff all the time. He trades one of the best prospects in baseball for Mason Miller. If he turns around and trades Mason Miller right now for like four guys, it wouldn't surprise me at all
Me
because
either.
like one of the things that I kind of heard is that he had interest in Mason Miller starting, and Mason Miller is like not interested in starting
Oh,
because
really? I didn't hear that.
yeah, so apparently Mason Miller like thinks he's like gonna get hurt starting, and he just saw what Edwin Diaz made, and he's like, screw it, like I can make
Yeah.
100 million closing,
Yeah.
so like
Exactly.
I'm not really ready to do that. But if you're the Mets, right? Like maybe you do trade two pitching prospects for me. So eventually here, AJ Preller has to trade like a Nick Pivetta for two young pitchers that he can put in his rotation because he can't spend. So like the Padres thing is fascinating. I'm sure he'll by the time the season starts, they'll have like a fringe contender because this is what AJ Preller does. But it might be wild, like getting to that point.
It's gonna be an interesting year, and we're gonna have to sit here and go through this entire year, and then we're gonna have to figure out what happens after that. So like that whole thing
Oh,
kind
the
of,
lockout stuff.
yeah,
Yeah,
you know,
I just want to like enjoy our young White Sox team and hope that we see like a bunch of our guys, right? Because I think like a lot of the guys that we've been talking about since you and I started together are going to be in AAA this year. Like they might be making big league debuts. And then hopefully you get a whole next wave behind it. I do think it's interesting, like hosting a White Sox prospects podcast right now is interesting.
When I hopped on here with you and started doing the strictly prospect stuff and not doing like White Sox with a little bit of prospect stuff, I was like, this is pretty much the perfect time for this. It's like there's so many interesting prospects and it's just been gaining steam. And I feel like the scouting department has like really upped their game to the point where it's getting a lot more interesting just for everything. Even if the White Sox do get better, we'll still have prospects to talk about.
Yeah, for
So
sure. And then with this past week, it's just like everybody's general manager would come out after getting the number 1 pick and, talk about how it's like a huge day and franchise altering. We just had Tyler on, maybe like that lended, some more credence to the fact that like getting the number 1 pick is just massive. Like
yeah,
that's like the biggest offseason news by far. Like they could, I mean, obviously they're not going to sign Kyle Tucker. So, like it's
we
a
had him
bigger
on
deal
like
than a Ryan
4 months,
O'Hearn.
probably 4 months early.
Hunter, yeah, we would never have draft guests on right now.
Yeah,
Even I wouldn't do that, like it's like I make Ian do it like for 6 weeks, like the whole month of June. And no, this is really early. But I mean, look,
yeah,
like you have mainstream media like looking up Roch Cholowsky highlights on YouTube.
yep.
Because everybody likes the guy, like no matter what sport it is, right? Everybody likes hope, like the next star. There's a guy in this draft, right? Like I know people that weren't even hockey fans that were like, wanted Connor Bedard because people like superstars. Like it is what it is,
Yeah. Is the draft earlier this year? I think maybe like
No, by 1 day.
Yeah. I was
It's
gonna
like
say
July
it's just
11th.
yeah. I
It's
think
right
last
before
year was on
All-Star
the
weekend.
13th or something.
Yeah, it's just whatever, that Saturday.
TJ's asking about expectation that they're releasing a statement on the full coaching staff. I mean,
Beats me. We saw that they hired a first base coach, right? That was that guy that was like coaching in Venezuela or whatever. And then they made a hire on the hitting side that Tony made official, but they haven't announced yet, right? That's a guy that I know like just a little bit, like, through the internet. He was coaching over the Schaumburg and he's on. So I would imagine they have multiple hires coming that they have not announced.
this so baseball asks us, is Roch like a given 1-1 like Williams and Bedard right now? I don't think so, actually.
No, I don't think so either. I mean, I think he's like Mike Shirley summed it up pretty well where he said that like he thinks he deserves to be at like the front of the line, like right now, basically. Like
Yeah.
he's earned the right to be at the front of the line, but they have like a college baseball season to play. Now, I will say with some of the other guys like in this class, it's going to be tough for those guys to overtake him, right? Like some of the things that a Justin LeBron or somebody else would have to do to actually be better than Roch Cholowsky would be a little bit tough at this point. But no, I mean it's baseball, so there's no slam dunks.
Yeah, I'm pretty much that's kind of how I feel about it, is that he seems like he's the guy, but I would absolutely not be surprised if in June we're saying, well, maybe this guy might be the guy. So
Yeah,
know.
I do think, and we'll be talking about this for 7 months, like lining it up, right? That's why I kind of asked the question for Tyler. Like to me, like how much higher of a ceiling does Emerson have to have for you to pass up the chance of getting a guy as good as Roch and having him on your team by midseason 20? You know what I mean? Because you're passing up like a lot by yes, okay, this guy has a higher ceiling, sure, but what you're not getting is this like rock solid shortstop that's going to be on your team by midseason 2027. It's just a lot to
Yeah.
pass on.
Yeah, it really, I mean, I don't know. I can't even imagine just passing on a guy that looks like he's got this much talent
Right.
in the top.
Well, so I released a mock draft today. And I kind of,
Link
and
in the description.
yeah, and I think you can kind of do both things this year, right? Like you take like the safe potential superstar at 1. I had him taking Brady Harris, who's an outfielder from Florida, a high school outfielder at 42, and then Savion Sims, who we talked about earlier, at 79. Like you can still add like a couple of super high upside high school guys and take Roch Cholowsky. Like this doesn't have to be like an either or because you're going to have so much money. So I don't want people to lose sight of the fact that it's so much money and nobody's ever made this much before. So they should be fine. And it's like the one area where they really do spend like as much as they're allowed to spend.
Yeah, this will be the first time that Jerry actually, first time since Albert Bell that Jerry has gone for like a top
Yeah,
monetary amount.
right.
Tom,
Tom, yeah, that's a good
yeah.
question. Go ahead.
Tom asks, who plays shortstop? Still sounds like Carlson is a better defender if he can hit in any in MLB.
So here's the thing, and Ian, tell me whether or not you agree. Yes, Carlson's like a better defensive shortstop, probably, but Rock's gonna beat him to the majors.
And at
So
this point, looks like he's got way more impact with the bat. At this
right,
point,
so the thing is, like, it's not like Billy Carlson's gonna be the shortstop in Chicago, and then Rock shows up and Rock overtakes him. It would be the other way around. It would be like if you take Roch Cholowsky, he'll be on your team, and Billy Carlson's hopefully in Double A at the time. And then if Billy Carlson's good enough to make it to the majors, you figure it out then. Like it's whatever. You trade him or he plays somewhere else. I don't think that's going to become a question.
yeah. Jamie brings up that in Keith Law's 2023 prospects, Rock was like number 23 back then. This like between Carlson and Roch Cholowsky, that kind of puts the White Sox in a weird place with Keith Law because he's not going to be able to talk badly about their top 2
Yeah,
prospects, at least at this point.
yeah, I know. Yeah. Well, this is what happens though, right? This is why I was excited about Billy Carlson last year. And look, there's questions. Like he may never hit, right? Like we've kind of talked about this. But if Billy Carlson goes to Tennessee, there's no doubt in my mind he's one of the best players in college baseball. Like 3 years later, and you're talking about him going in like the same spot. Rock was like anywhere from 20 to 40, and he wanted like $4 million or something, right? And he went to school. It doesn't usually happen because guys like this usually get paid. That's why this is rare. It's rare that you have a college shortstop that's this good. That's a college shortstop. They usually go pro out of high school.
Carrie brings up, and then you also have Bonnemer, which he's been rocketing up the prospect lists as well. I mean, there's a lot of interesting things.
Yeah,
going on right now.
I've seen multiple places where Bonnemer's like their number 1 prospect, which I did not expect. But I mean, if you think he can play shortstop, like, I think it makes some sense. I had a tweet earlier this week. Like, there's a chance that when they draft Roch Cholowsky, in theory, that they have 2 of the top 50 shortstop prospects 2 of the top 50 prospects in baseball at the time, and they're both shortstops. Because, like, if Billy Carlson does what I think he's going to do, him and Bonnemer are both, in that top 50 range, and then you're going to draft another one in July.
Yep. So Emiliano, I just want to say thank you for the super chats tonight. Very gracious, sir. We appreciate it. So Emiliano says Rock third base, Billy shortstop, Bonnemer left field, Colson first base. What do you think about that?
I do think Bonnemer is the most likely to like move to the outfield. Like if you have all these guys and they're all good, like surprising, you know what I mean? Which is like knock on. I don't know. Like looking at stuff like this is great. Like maybe Billy Carlson you trade for a number 2 star. You know what I mean? Like, it's just like you take shortstops because they're either going to be good for you, they can switch positions, or you trade them if you have enough good players, right? So I don't know. I mean, Colson is moving somewhere probably, but I mean, he was good at shortstop last year.
So Boopa asks, where is Billy working out right now? And I know that I did just hear him talking about it the other day, but for whatever reason, I can't remember.
I
Do you remember?
don't know. I'm guessing Arizona. Is
I
he home in
think
SoCal?
I'm
Okay.
pretty sure he is in Arizona, but I don't know for
Yeah, it's
sure.
so
But I
close,
thought
right,
that's where it
to
was.
like Southern California that
Yeah,
um Kerry says he's in SoCal. So, but I know there are a bunch of guys that are like together, like in Nashville. Like Merkin
yeah,
said, like
yeah.
what there's like Colson Montgomery and Sean Burke.
Cannon,
Yeah, there's like lots of guys down there. So for when Ishbia moves the team
Colson.
to Nashville.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, you have anything else crazy going on that you want to talk about? All right. Well, I just want to bring up that Sox Fest is coming up here soon, and
Hey, we might be
so
there.
yeah, just to throw that out there for you guys that there will be there will be a few of us there. The contingent of Future Sox will be there hanging out, and we will be making content in that place. So just so you guys know that, something to look forward to. You good for me to walk this out here, James? All right. Well, thanks for hanging out, everybody. Appreciate it. Uh, thanks to Tyler Jennings for coming on and hanging out. We appreciate that so much. Always very giving of his time and treasure trove of information. Uh, you have been watching / listening to the Future Sox podcast. If you are listening to this in podcast form, know that you can find us every Sunday night at 8 p.m. on YouTube and the Purple app. You can also find this podcast along with all of our written content at futuresox.net. We are now part of the Just Baseball Media Network. If you are looking for White Sox prospect highlights, you can find them on X at Future Sox and now also here on our YouTube channel. If you love the content and want to support us here at Future Sox, there is a link to our Patreon in our channel description and at futuresox.net. You can also toss up a super chat on our YouTube stream. Also, don't forget to like this stream and subscribe with notifications so you know when we're going live while helping us in the World Wide Web algorithms. My name is Ian Eskridge at Daily White Sox. He is James Fox at James Fox 917. We appreciate all of you guys. Thanks for hanging out. Thanks for chatting. You guys keep this community thing going. We appreciate you guys so much. You guys help drive this thing. Have a great night. We'll catch up with you guys next week. Thanks.